Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili nishmasim mirasi v'smas Mordechai. Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Kol achatoish b'Torah koidmois la'ashamois. Achatos comes before an asham. Chutz ma'asham mitzayra. Besides the asham of the mitzayra. The chatos and asham are very similar, but as we said, a chatos comes for karas. Asham does not come for karas. They both come to be mechaper. Chutz ma'asham mitzayra. The mitzayra who brings a carbon. Here we go. Asham mitzayra all the way on the right. Mipnei shubo al hechsher. He comes to give the mitzayra the opportunity to go out and run a regular life. Kol hashamosh b'Torah boim b'nei shtayim uboim because of shkalim. All hashamosh in the Torah, as the pasuk says, maybe we don't have it here. It's on the other charts, but it says kesef shkalim. Now, not to make a mistake, I saw Talmidei Chachamim make mistake over here, so we got to say it again. B'nei shtayim doesn't mean like you don't translate it in English. He's 2 years old. 2 years old would mean he's in his third year. He started his third year. B'nei shtayim in Gemara language means started his second year. So he's 1 year old and a day. He's a year old and a day. That's B'nei Shtayim. He's into his second year. He started his second year. Ubayim because of shkalim. You need 2 shekel. There's a minimum how much you're paying for this. If a guy gives you a good deal and he takes 1 shekel from you, you can't bring that asham. You have to pay 2 shekel. Chutz ma'asham nazir v'asham mitzayra. When you have a asham nazir and asham mitzayra, shem bayim b'nei shnasan, they're into their first year. In other words, they cannot be 2 years. They buy them because of shkalim, and they don't cost 2 shekel. Here we go. Where was it? I see, by the way, that my slides over here did not update. Don't know why. Let's see. So here we have a keves that's less than a year old. It's good for asham nazar, asham mitzayra, and it costs 1 selah. No, the thing changed. No, before it was 2, 1 selah. Now, yeah, because now this is good for sham shiv charufa, sham tali, asham ilois. I don't know, something changed over there. It went up. The age went up also. Kevin's ben shana v'chodesh. I didn't read it. Okay, it's 13. Once it's 13 months old, then the price goes up to 2 shekel. Slide shekel. Kesheim shekoidim b'akravasam. So we're discussing that you have to do the avodah of the carbon first. If it's a chatos, comes before an asham. So too, the eating. If you have a steak, the kohen has the opportunity to eat from a chatos or an asham. He eats from the chatos first. Shlomim shel emesh, shlomim from yesterday, shlomim shel yoim. You have 2 shlomims in front of you. Yesterday's shlomim and today's shlomim. Shel emesh koidim and shel yoim. Yesterday's comes first. Shlomim shel emesh. And Rashi says over here that he didn't shecht it yet, because you would think we're talking about a shechted animal. No, shlamim shalamesh. This is the shlamim from yesterday. You brought it to the base of English yesterday, but you have it here today and you shecht it today. Chatas v'ashim shalayim versus the chatas of today. Shlamim shalamesh kaidmim. So the Gemara is going to discuss this a little bit. We're going to bring this as a raya, not discuss, but bring it as a raya. So it's kedai to remember. Again, you have shlamim from yesterday. You brought it and you didn't shecht it. It's sitting in the pen overnight. And you have the chatas. Chatas comes before shlamim. But since you brought it in yesterday, shlamim comes first. Divrei Rebbe Meir. That's Rebbe Meir's sheet. Chacham oirim chatas kedemes v'pnei shikachi kadashim. A kachi kachim always comes before kachim kalim. V'kulon hakoyanim rishon l'shanish b'achilasan. You could change the recipe. You could do any type of. You could barbecue it. You could grill it. You could cook it. Different types of cooking or roasted. This is a chiddush that you're allowed to bring chulin into the azar. You're allowed to bring spices that are chulin into the azar to help out the food. And bring spices of truma. The problem with truma would be Mevi kachim lidei psul. You're taking truma that you could eat forever, and you're limiting the amount of days that you could eat it. Now, if you do it with shlamim, you could only eat it for 2 days. So you took truma, and maybe lidei psul. Don't use truma. Shloyavi truma lidei psul. Here, before in the Mishnah, maybe truma lidei psul. You're limiting the time that you could eat this truma, going from forever to 2 days. Ibaylu. So that's the Gemara. Tader u'mekudesh. I love this question because the Gemara explains the question in a way that the Gemara never explains it. Halavai, all questions in Gemara would be like this. Tader u'mekudesh. You have a race. You have something that you use all the time, you do all the time, the mitzvah is all the time, like Rosh Chodesh. The oil of Rosh Chodesh happens at least 12 times a year, maybe 13 if there's an Ibri or I don't know. And you have Par Helam Dover. Sanhedrin passing the wrong way, you bring a Par Helam Dover. How often did that happen, if it ever happened? Once in a lifetime versus 12 times a year, so you have the Tader. But the Par Helam Dover is more Kaddish. What comes first? The Tader or the Gdusha? And here comes the explanation of all explanations. Tadir Kaidem, should Tadir be first? Why? Mishum the Tadir, because it's Tadir. Oy Dilma Mikudish Kadem, maybe the Kedusha should become first. Why? The Kaddish, because it's Kaddish. Yivaldik. Toshma, Midim Kaidem Musaf. A Tamid comes before the Shabbos Karban. V'avagav the Musaf Kedishi. The Tzadik Aleph Amid Aleph. V'avagav the Musaf Kedishi. Musaf has more Kedusha than Shabbos. Shabbos has more Kedusha than, no, we're not at Rosh Chodesh yet, than Tamid. You have the weekday Tamid, you do it every single day, and you have the Musaf of Shabbos. And so what comes first? Tader comes before Kedusha. Tamid comes before Shabbos, which is more Kaddish. Says the Gemara, and this is the answer over and over and over. Says Taisvis, we have to understand in each and every one, what is the Gemara adding? Same question, same teretz. Oh, the Shabbos Musavim Mahani. What do you mean it's a Tamid? And it's like a vachadika carbon. There's no such thing as a weekday carbon. If it's a carbon that you bring on Shabbos, so you just add the Kedusha of Shabbos to the Tamid. So now you have a Tamid, so it has plus number one, that it's every day. Number two, it's a Shabbos Tamid. Why is it any worse than the Musaf of Shabbos? Oh, the Shabbos Musaf Mahani. Shabbos helps the Musaf that you bring that day. It's not going to give Kedusha Yisera to the Tamid that comes every day. Next, same exact question, same answer. Tashma from a different area. Musaf Shabbos Kaidmin the Musaf Rosh Chodesh. Shabbos, which is over 50 times a year, and Rosh Chodesh is 12, 13 times a year. What comes first? L'chayra, Tadir comes first, Shabbos comes first. Rosh Chodesh is more Kedusha. So that shocked me when I saw it. And Rashi brings this pasuk from Eicha. Kora Olai Moed. Referring to Rosh Chodesh. So, because throughout Shas we always learned, and I can't tell you the source, but I just remember Shabbos is top of the top. It's more chashuv than any yontif. Learned it a number of times. Shabbos has more kedusha than yontif. No, it says that the Rosh Chodesh is more chashuv than Shabbos. Yet Shabbos comes first. What does the Gemara answer? So Rosh Chodesh adds an element of Kedusha to the Shabbos Musaf. So you have Shabbos, but the Shabbos Musaf has also a little bit of Rosh Chodesh in it. You don't have a raya from there. Great. So Tashma Musaf Rosh Chodesh Musaf Rosh Hashanah. So the same idea. Nachamol. You have Rosh Chodesh that comes before Rosh Hashanah. On Rosh Hashanah, what comes first? Rosh Chodesh, because it's more often than Rosh Hashanah. I've got the Rosh Hashanah kacha, even though there's more kedusha than Rosh Hashanah. So once again, we have the same answer. Rosh Hashanah, l'musaf d'idei ahani. Rosh Hashanah is able to infuse kedusha to its own musaf. L'musaf Rosh Chodesh le'ahani. So you have Rosh Chodesh plus Rosh Hashanah. That's why Rosh Chodesh comes first. Tashma dover acher. So we know that on Shabbos, when you make Kiddush, we say Boyer Pri Agafen, and then you say Mekadosh Shabbos, you make a bracha on Shabbos. Why? There's machlokes Basil Mishamai. We pass it like Basil, they say the wine first. So now, it says, another reason why wine comes before Kiddush. Birkas Hayayin Tedira, or Birkas Hayoim Eina Tedira. Because wine is Tadir, V'Tadir Shein Tadir, Tadir Shein Tadir, Tadir Kaidim. We know the famous concept, something that happens more often, like wine. We drink wine all the time, in the time of the Gemara, every day. So that comes before Shabbos. Now, more proves, Afagav, the Birkas Hayom Kedisha. You have Kaddish, you have Shabbos, the bracha on Shabbos, and you have wine that's not Kaddish, and wine comes, and wine is more Tadir. So you see that Tadir comes before Kedusha. Of the Shabbos, the Birkas Hayom Bahani, the Birkas Hayayin Layahani. What do you mean? You infuse the Kedusha of Shabbos into the wine also. That's why you make it first. Another one, what happens when you didn't have Musaf, you're supposed to have Musaf earlier than the time of Mincha, and it got pushed off into the Mincha time. When does that happen? A lot on Rosh Hashanah, some Chazarah. And I saw that there's a real nidain what to do. I never saw anybody in Shul say, hey, we should have Mincha now. But there are a lot that say you should have Mincha first, before Musaf. This, a Tnai, makes a difference, the whole thing, but it's not so posh. So once again, now, Mincha is Tadir, and Musaf is not. So you see that Tadir comes before Musaf, even though Musaf is more Kaddish. So Gemara, the Shabbos, Musaf Mahani, Mincha Layahani. What do you mean? Mincha on Shabbos? Yeah, ask the Mekubalim. Every tefillah on Shabbos is elevated because of the Shabbos. So Ma'ariv on Shabbos is an elevated Ma'ariv, more than a regular weekday Ma'ariv. A Mincha on Shabbos is elevated. So this Mincha, don't look at it as a Mincha. It's Mincha of Shabbos. It's just as chashiv as the Musaf of Shabbos. Plus that it's Tadir, so that's why it wins. Tashma, Shlomim Shalemesh. We learned in the Mishnah, if you have the Shlomim that came yesterday and you didn't shecht it, Chaz Vashim Shel Yoin, and at the same time you have a Chatas, an Asham of today, Shlomim Shalemesh Kaidim. You shechted the Shlomim, do Shlomim first. So the Gemara is Medayik, Idividi Yoim. What if they all showed up the same day? You have a Shlomim and a Chatas that showed up the same day. Chatas Vashim Kadi. Of course, the Chatas comes first. V'avagav the Shlomim Diri. Shlomim comes more often than a Chatas. More people bring Shlomim as an Adava than a Chatas. So, you have the Tadir versus the Kaddish. One is Chatas is Kachi Kachim, Shlomim is Kachi Galim. But Shlomim comes before the Kedusha. Why? Because it's more often. So you see, more often comes before Kaddish. Amar Rava Motzik Amers. You're telling me something that's more common? I'm talking about Tadir. So he makes a distinction between common and Tadir. There's something called Tadir that the Torah says, do this X amount of times. Shlomim, yes, it's more common, but the Torah doesn't tell you to bring Shlomim. If you feel like bringing Shlomim, you bring a Shlomim. But a Chatas you have to bring. A Asham you have to bring. In certain situations, if you do a Chet, you Mechal Shabbos by mistake, you bring an Asham. You don't have a choice. That would be Tadir. Not the fact that there's more of them and because more people do it. You don't have to make him a Zionist, or maybe some people I saw say going to the bathroom, that child that we had, going to the bathroom, or you have to go to the bathroom halachically. If you feel the urge to go, then you have the Isser to hold it in, so you have to go to the bathroom. But you don't have to eat. You're saying, why didn't Rav ask it over there? Something that's more frequent is not what we're dealing with. He asked the question. Atu Matzi left Tadir. Why not? Batanya. So there's a brisa. There's a brisa that says, interesting halacha. Everything in the Torah that you chayv karas on, if you do it by mistake, you have to bring a karban chatos. There's two things that are an exception: Mila and Pesach. So on that, the brisa says, Oitzis ha-Pesach she'enoi Tadir. Maybe it's not true. Maybe only one out of the two doesn't have to bring a chatos. Why? Let's take out the Pesach. She'enoi Tadir. So the Oitzis ha-Mila she'dira. Let's focus on the Pesach. It's not as common. Where Mila is more common. So the Gemara answers, so you see Nachamal, that what? That Tadir comes before Kedusha. Pesach has more Kedusha, and Mila is more common. So the Gemara, no, my dear b'mitzvahs. The Tadir by Mila doesn't mean it's more common. What the Gemara, what the Brisa meant to say is that it's in the Torah. It's mentioned 13 times in the Torah. So the Torah put a bigger emphasis on it. That's why it should come first. So you don't have a raya against Rava that it's more that we don't go by matzui. If you compare Mila to Pesach, there's so many more Milas than Pesach that it's in a different league. But over here, by Shlamim and Chatos, there's not that much of a difference. Yeah, there's more Shlamim than Chatos, but it's not as much as Mila and Pesach. Question Rabbi Isai until the Mishnah. Almost. Again, what comes first? You have something that you do all the time, the Tadr, and you have something that you don't do all the time, and you went ahead with Kadim V'Shachad L'Sheni Tadr. You did the wrong thing. You shechted the wrong one. Should you continue performing the Avodah or not? You shechted it. Keep on going. What is that called, Rabbi Isai? Once you do a mitzvah, keep on going. He shechted it, so you can keep on going. Wow. The Shlomim that came yesterday, and we shechted it today. And the Chadas came today. Shlom is from yesterday, it's Kachim Kalam. Chatas is Kachim Kachim, but it came today. Shalav is Kachim Shal Yom. Now the Gemara says in Daik, but what if it came today? The Chatas came today, but it'll be similar to yesterday. What's the case? The Kachim Shachted Shlomim Chatas. The Kachim Shachted Shlomim, first he Shachted the Shlomim. Chatas was from Kachim. It's only because it came yesterday that we say the Shlomim should come first. But if Shlomim came today and you messed up and you shechted the wrong one first, so that's our case, that you have Tadir, you have Shlomim, and Kadosh together at the same time, Chat is Vashim Kadmi. We prove from here that the Kadosh comes before the Tadir if you messed up and you jumped the gun and you shechted the wrong one. Says Gemara, no, your diuk isn't good because we can say a different diuk. Dilma Shlomim Damish, Chat is Vashim Diyoim, Hechim Mishkachsla, the Shechtinot Tarvayu. Maybe the reason why Chatas comes first is because you shechted both. And in the case that you shechted the Chatas also. But if you didn't shech both, you only shechted the Shlomim, maybe you would have a shayla because you jumped the gun. Now what do you do? Tashma dover acher. Because I had to do like we had before. Yeah, but we're going to bring a different raya. We had this before that what? That the bracha on the wine to dira, ubirkis hayoyim and to dira, it comes before the bracha on Shabbos. Mekadosh Shabbos comes after Boyer Priya Gafen. The Tadir Shein Tadir Kaidim. But Shabbos came before wine. Why did Shabbos come before wine? Because it's Shabbos. Shabbos came in, you're Mekadosh the day, so the day came before you even came up to the wine. And what do you do? So what do you see? That even though Shabbos came first, the Tadir, well, we're saying that you should do Tadir, you should do wine first. So by us also, even though you jumped the gun, you did the Tadir instead of doing the other one. I'm sorry, you did the not Tadir first. You should do the Tadir first. Why? Just like you see by Shabbos. Shabbos came first, yet you brought wine in here. You should do the wine first. So says Gemara, but at the end of the day, we're going to view it as if they're both in front of us. Like we said before, like a Shlomim and Chadas, they're both shechted. If the Shlomim and Chadas are both shechted, what's the halacha? This we have to get into our head. If you have the two things in front of us, then for sure the Tadir comes first. The whole shaila is if you shechted the other, there's only one shechted, what do you do first? Tashma, the halacha is that you should daven, if you have mincha and musaf, you missed the time of Musaf, and the Musaf went into Mincha time, you should daven Mincha first. Musaf came first. Musaf came first. The same answer you said before. We're not going to look at it as if Musaf came first and then came Mincha. We're going to look at it as if they're both in front of us right now together. What do you do? And Allah is, you do Mincha, you do Tadir first. It's as if you have a Shechted Chatas and Shlom in front of us. If you shechted the carbon Pesach In the wrong time, pasul. Before chatzos, pasul. Torah says you shouldn't shecht it before chatzos. But what if you shechted it after chatzos? Koydem l'tamid. But you jumped the gun. Here's our case. You shechted the carbon pesach, which has more kedusha, before the carbon tamid, which is what you're supposed to do, the tamid first, and you shechted the carbon pesach first. Kosher. It's kosher. This is a mefurish raya that if you jump the gun, you shechted the carbon pesach before the tamid, you continue with the tamid. You sit there and mix the blood. You mavir al mitzvahs. You go past you ignore the carbon pesach and you do what you're supposed to do. Says Gemara, not a good raya. My skin you're going to cut them shechted the tamid v'reisha. No. Once again, you have two shechted animals in front of you. You have a tamid shechted and a pesach shechted. What you do in that case, always the tadir wins. I can prove from the Mishnah. How do I know that both of them are shechted? Doesn't it seem a little bit doichak? It seems like you're making a doichak teretz. No, this is mamish l'chatchila teretz. Why? Because it says in the Mishnah, achi zorek hadam. Meaning the only thing missing here is zrikas adam. It doesn't say you should shecht the tamid. Raya shmamina that they're both shechted in front of us. And what do you do when you have a carbon pesach and a carbon tamid in front of us? Both shechted. You always go with the tadir kard. My time, why are the Rikoyanim allowed to do any recipe? Gdula, greatness. The Torah says, eat this meat, not like style, like a pauper, like a king. If you need special spices, what do you guys have in America? All these barbecue sauces and zachin, what are they called? If you see oil being given out in the Azara, if you see oil that's being given out in the Azara, ain't tzorich lishol mahu. Don't ask any questions. You could have from it. Why? Ela moiser kiki menachas Yisrael. This must be the leftover from a mincha of Yisrael. V'loik shemen shel mitzayra. Imra'isa shemen shu nitan al gabei yishim. So it's kedai to remember. This you see oil given out in the Azara. If you see oil given out on the mizbeach, don't ask what hechsher it is. It's good oil. You can drink from it. Nitan al yishim. If you see the oil given out on the mizbeach, this is the seifa. Ein tzorich l'shol ma'al. Don't worry about it. Ela moiser kiki minchas kohanim and minchas kohen Mashiach. So Rashi explains over here that when you make when the kohen brings, he brings it with 3 lug of oil. It's a tremendous amount of oil. It's never going to bake itself well. So you take the extra, you take off the extra, and you throw it onto the mizbeach. Shem is not Shem. You don't have to worry about it. This is not coming from an adava. This is good stuff. Kohanim could eat it. You could give an adava shemen, and therefore it's problematic. If you could give shemen, so maybe you shouldn't be eating the shemen. Says the Gemara Daf Tzadik Gomel Beis. Omer Shmuel. L'divri Reb Tarfin Amisnad shemen koim tzoy v'sharv nechalim. The boys, you hear this crazy stuff? You have a whole bowl of oil. Somebody brought in a bowl of oil. There's a minimum. The Gemara is going to say there's a minimum. You put your hand into the oil. Kmitza time for oil. It's a liquid. Doesn't matter. Rashi says you go like this. You take that. You put it on the mizbeach. This place says it makes no sense. Why are you going like this? This place says it's congealed. Fine. My time, you're allowed to bring a gift of oil to the Beis Hamikdash. And the Gemara continues, Mincha has the same halacha of a mincha. Just like a mincha, you do kmitza and you put it on the mizbeach, and the leftover you eat it. So too, oil, you could eat it. So you have a shiloh over here. Do you eat it or you put it on the mizbeach? Machlokes a little bit. We'll see. Omer B'Zeira. So now we have a machlokes between Reb Zeira and Abaya. Omer Reb Zeira. You could bring a ride from the Mishnah. Omer Reb Shimon says in our Mishnah, remember, here, I'll just throw it on the screen here so you can follow. The Reisha says if you see oil in the Azara, it must be that it's oil that comes from the leftover of a mincha, because you can't give an adava. And therefore, what if you can't give an adava? The halacha is equals mischalik. You're allowed to give it out. Yeah, that's all. Lishol mao. You don't have to ask what it is. This is leftover from a mincha. You can't give it an adava. According to Reb Tarfin, that says at the end of the Mishnah that you could give it a dava mischalik. It's divided between people. I'll bring the exact opposite raya from the Seifa. What does it say in the Seifa? Not in the Azor. You see oil going on the Mizbeach. You don't have to ask what it is. It must be the leftover from the Mincha of the Kohen. Because you can't just give it a dava. The writer of Zera says is that if you say that it's in dava, then everything is in the dava. The whole thing is in the dava. Nothing goes on the Mizbeach. And over here, if you see a little bit going on the Mizbeach, the whole thing should go on the Mizbeach. So which one is it? If there's in a dava, does the whole thing go on the Mizbeach, or does the whole thing get divided up? According to Reb Zera, the whole thing gets divided up. According to Abaye, the whole thing goes on the Mizbeach. But what does Abaye do with Reb Zera's raya? What does Reb Zera do with Abaye's raya? They're identical rayas. Just one is from the Reish, one is from Seifa, and we have an opposite outcome. Abaye kasha Reish, Reb Zera kasha Seifa. Says the Gemara, Bishleim Reb Zera, Reish B'Shirayim, Seifa B'Koymet. According to Reb Zera, I can say a very simple answer. There's dividing up and not dividing up. According to Reb Zera, think about it. When you bring a kaimetz, there's a kmitza. Where does that go? Nobody can eat a kmitza. Kmitza always goes on the mizbeach. The leftover is you give it out. So Reb Zera is going to say that the Reisha is talking about what I bring a raya, says Reb Zera, is talking about the leftovers. That's why I could divide it. The seifa that's mashma that says it goes on the fire, because that's one little part called the kmitza. But Abaye that starts from the seifa and says that everything goes on the fire. Wait a minute, from the Reish's mashma that not everything goes on the fire. There's a little bit that you give out. What do you give out? The whole thing goes on the fire. Says the Gemara, a wild thing here. Tana Reisha atu seifa. The Reisha is not meduyik. Don't bring any raya from the Reisha. If you look, it's the same exact words. In Marisa Shemen, the only difference is where. One says Azar, one says Zishim. So the Reisha, I just put it in there not because it's accurate, because it mimics the seifa. And I want to have a Mishnah that is easy to remember. So I'm going to say the same words in the Reish and the Seifa. The problem with that is that's a teretz that we use sometimes in Shas. When you have a Reisha that's good, and the Seifa is problematic, I say, you know what, the Seifa we just did because of the Reisha. But I never start the Reisha bad or not accurate because there's something in the Seifa. A lot of times you say the end of the Mishnah, even though it's not accurate, because it mimics the Reisha. Did I ever find that you say a Seifa that's accurate, and the Reisha is not accurate, and I do it because of the Seifa? Yes, we do it. I remember, but on the Reisha Seifa, yes, and I actually said there's such a thing. Okay, we'll stop over here. Rabbi Sai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schus of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shir today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDYDAF.com.